All right, well, I am driving through the mountains of Kurdistan here by myself today, and I'm headed out to meet with the commander of one of the Kurdish independence parties.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
One of the things I'm learning on this trip is that there are a ridiculous amount of different factions when it comes to the Kurds that are really boggle the mind. I mean, very hard to keep track of all the different parties and what they all represent. Now, you know, the Kurdish are this ethnic people group. They're the largest ethnic group in the world that doesn't have their own state and their own country. And they've got a lot of competing interests because they've been sort of split up since the Ottoman Empire, really. I mean, since the Sykes-Picot agreement back after World War I, that kind of split the people of the Kurds between Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. So there are Kurds that live in all of those areas. A lot of them, I think 7 million of them or something like that. And so when I was at church on Friday, they do church on Fridays here because Friday is the traditional holy day. And the church I went to, although it's a Christian church, is trying to reach out to Muslims who are seeking. And so they, Friday is the day off. Everybody has off work, so they have their church on Friday. Anyway, I went to church and met some Iranian guys that are Iranian Kurds. One of them invited me to come see where he currently is stationed at a Kurdish military base out near the Iranian border. And so since I kind of had a little bit of time today, I decided to take the guy up on his offer. He said that he could get me an interview with the commander of his military base, and I think of the actual, it's a Iranian faction of the Kurds, their political party. So I'm driving this armored SUV out through the mountains. It's very beautiful here, stark. It kind of looks a little bit like maybe, Idaho or maybe Northern California in the springtime. Today it's pretty stormy. It's raining a lot and the roads are pretty bad. I don't know if you've ever driven an armored SUV, but they're about 3 times heavier than a regular SUV, so it's kind of like driving a really small building or something. They don't handle real well, although it's better to be in one and have it and not need it than need it and not have it. There haven't been many attacks out here in the way of IEDs or bombings or anything like that in pretty much long time. However, one of the reasons I wanted to go out to this place, it's about an hour to the east of Erbil, or southeast, I guess, towards Suleimania. One of the reasons I wanted to go out there is because this base that I'm going to be at is the site of a missile attack that happened back in September of 2018. And what happened was, it's fairly close to the Iranian border, just a few miles away from the Iranian border. And the Iranians launched a rocket from Iran that hit this base. And I'm going to find out more about that. I just kind of read a little bit about it, but it sounds kind of interesting because I don't think most Americans know how much conflict is actually going on here, how much of a power struggle is happening between the Iranians and the Kurds and the Syrians and the Turks and the Iraqis and the Christians, and and everybody's got a militia or 2 or 10, and everybody has designs on this area, but Iran is kind of the 900-pound gorilla out here, and they are absolutely 100% bound and determined to establish what I would call a land bridge, or as some call it, the Iranian Crescent. That is a kind of an open, free highway between Iran and Lebanon, where they support Hezbollah against Israel. And they've been arming and supporting Hezbollah for many years, but they could do it a lot better if they could easily truck weapons and supplies and even troops to the northern border of Israel. And I'm kind of a believer you should take people at their word, unless they give you a reason not to believe them. If they say they're going to do something, then you should believe that they're going to do it until they show you they're not. And in the case of Iran, they have been saying for many years that they would work for the destruction of Israel, and they have been very consistent about actually working for the destruction of Israel. So, if they're saying they're going to do it, and they're demonstrating that they want to do it by taking steps in that direction, then you ought to believe that they plan to do it. And so if they are allowed to establish this land bridge from Iran out to Israel, or out to Lebanon, it will be very, very dangerous for our allies, the Israelis. And that's a big problem. That's very bad. And Israel knows that. And one of the reasons why we've seen in the last several weeks Israel striking at Iranian assets inside Syria at a maybe more frenetic pace than they had in the past, is because the United States has signaled its desire to, and its intention to, pull out of Syria, although that's been walked back some now. They've signaled that their desire to pull out, and the day that the United States announced, the day that Donald Trump announced that we would be pulling out of Syria, I'm told that 1,500 Iranian troops, IGRC, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, soldiers, crossed the border into Syria. So the IGRC has a very significant presence now in Syria, in the areas where the United States had been controlling and patrolling. Not only that, there's reports now that Russia is stepping up patrols in areas around Manbij, where the United States still has a presence even now. Look, everybody wants to control this area, and it is an absolutely vital piece of terrain for many reasons, strategically, tactically, and otherwise, even economically to some extent. And so if the United States pulls out precipitously, it's going to go very badly, not just for the Kurds. It's already going badly for the Kurds, but it would go a lot worse if we were to leave. It will go badly for Israel. Apparently, Hezbollah has been fighting in Syria for years already, but they are augmenting their troops there. So when we get into Syria in the next several days, you could literally run into Hezbollah out there. It's a really, really volatile powder keg. It's almost like if you were to take any one of these elements by themselves. Let's say you had some gasoline. Okay, well, the gasoline's flammable, but if you mix gasoline and gunpowder, this is even more flammable. And if you mix gasoline and gunpowder and nitroglycerin, then you're getting a little worse. And if you come up with a whole laundry list of other very highly flammable and volatile substances and mix them all in there, I mean, the explosion that could happen with the slightest spark is absolutely unthinkable. And that's kind of what Syria looks like today. And the United States is really the dilution agent. It's the agent that is right now keeping a lid on things. Apparently ISIS is down to an increasingly small area day by day. They are being defeated, but they are still a volatile fighting force. They apparently last night or yesterday employed women as suicide bombers against the Syrian Democratic Forces and killed, they had 5 female suicide bombers yesterday that detonated themselves, came up as if they were refugees to the SDF and then blew themselves up and killed 19 Syrian Democratic Forces yesterday. I mean, this is bad. And they just several days ago made an attack on a compound of Kurdish fighters and had a 12-hour firefight. I mean, it was a coordinated, massive attack. After a 12-hour battle, there were over 80 ISIS killed and a handful of Kurdish, the Syrian Democratic Alliance that we support out there. I mean, ISIS must still have a few guys left if they're able to throw what was probably 300 fighters at a Kurdish military base out there, and with the intent of taking it over. So if they're able to mount massive attacks like that, they're not out. There are these checkpoints that you have to go through all around Kurdistan. Let's see if I can flip this around and show you what it's like going through the checkpoint. I think this is my guy right here. Yeah, this is my my buddy. Come on. Hey, how's it going, brother?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
Oh,
great
you're
to see you. Yeah, I'm alone. My cameraman couldn't come with me. But I'm sorry that it took so long. There was a lot of flooding in Erbil. But
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.